Alright guys, you requested it, making a quick video on how to rotate in Valorant. So rotating does a couple things. It helps you surprise the enemy, which can result in a couple of kills and sometimes just straight up win the round that way. It helps you get information on the map, and getting that extra information can help your whole team make the rotation they need to follow the spike. So first things first, step one is to check choke point. So pretty much every spawn is next to a choke point. Let's say you're playing at A, you're defending. You check this, no one is there. You stand right here, you don't hear anything, about like 5-10 seconds. So this is when you want to start slow pushing or slow rotating, whatever you want to call it. The reason for this is because you can tell your team that there's 100% certainty that they're not going this way to A. So slow pushing gives you information on the map, and that is the first step to rotating. So let's go on to the second step right now, because that's the most important, and that is the information you see on the minimap and what your teammates tell you. So let's say you do the slow push. Now you see some dots in mid, right? You see some enemies shooting at mid, so they could go B or C at this point. Now, since you're slow pushing, your teammates are probably still in the sights, or they're slow pushing as well. Either way, you're gonna know that they're probably somewhere over here, and they could be going B, they could be going C. It's less likely they're going A, but it's still possible. But you're probably going to get the upper hand because you're sneaking behind them. And this is usually when you're going to pick up a few extra kills. They're not going to expect you to actually follow them the whole time, pretty much. Still, using that information on the minimap, you're going to be looking for one thing, and one thing specifically, and that is the spike carrier, or the spike itself. So if the spike carrier makes a shot, that means his team is probably there with him. So that's when you're going to want to rotate, because this game is based off of two things: either eliminating the whole team or planting / defusing this spike. That's how you win the rounds, that's how you win the game. So knowing where the spike is allows you to make that rotation, allows you to make that call. So if you do see the spike on the minimap, that's one thing you're going to want to call out right away, regardless of what's going on, because that's the most important thing.
Now, while rotating is a good thing, there is such a thing as over-rotating and just bad rotating in general. So first, let's talk about over-rotating. So let's say that you see 3 enemies shooting B side. You know, there's abilities coming in and whatnot. This is late mid-game. Everyone's got abilities on deck. They've got money to spend, so they're using their abilities. They've got decent guns. So anyway, someone calls, they're coming B, right? They see 3 people at B. But in reality, they have not seen the spike yet, so this would be an over-rotation. You're not supposed to leave the bomb site mid to late game because you never know what could happen. So it's always important to at least leave one person on the other bomb site, just in case it is more of a ninja plant, because you really only need 2 people to hold the site, especially if they're able to buy all the abilities, because there's so much versatility with some of the characters, right? You can put up walls, you can totally seal off an entry point. And I know it's not completely sealed off, right? They can shoot and break it, but by the time that happens, you're going to obviously know that there's at least one or maybe more coming from that direction. And then there's only 2 places to watch, and there's 2 people, so it is definitely doable. Even if it's a 2v4 situation, 2v5 situation, it still might be doable because they might have enough time because everyone rotated the other bomb site, and that is over rotation. So mainly what you're trying to get out of this is, if it's a very heavy rush, like at least 4 people, there's probably not going to be one person going to the other bomb site. So 4 or more obviously means rotate there, but you need to almost always just watch for the spike. So if you don't see the spike on the minimap, don't immediately rotate, even if someone is calling it out. If they see the spike, then yeah, start running over there, because the whole game revolves around the spike. Now, kind of going off what I said about slow pushing, it's not always the best strategy, especially if it's not working. If it is working for you, keep doing it, but later in the game, like I said, enemies are playing slower, and they have more money, they have abilities and stuff like that. So slow pushing, they might actually be camping you, because they have time, they have all these abilities, they have time to make all these moves. So I would advise to not slow push later in the round if it's a really close game. But let's move on to the next point, which is just bad rotating in general. So I see this a lot with low level players. So when people are rotating from one bomb site to another, they'll go the same way as their teammates. The reason this is bad is because the enemy team will have an easier time picking you guys off when you go through, right? If you guys go different ways to different access points of the site, that means the enemies have to look in more than one place, so it's harder for them to pick you off when you're going to the bomb site. As of good rule of thumb, just always go a different way than your teammate unless you guys are going to use your abilities together in a way to take over the site. Now this requires a lot of coordination, so obviously this is something you have to plan way before this even happens, but almost always you want to go a different way so it's harder for the enemy team to stop you guys. Anyways, guys, this is my short video on rotating in Valorant. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.